Hello and welcome to the Career Booster podcast. Today I'm speaking to Basma Aziz, who is a well-being consultant, and we're going to talk all about burnout and preventing burnout and what the signs are and really the importance of finding a career that you really love, that you feel fulfilled so that you can avoid having a burnout again. So Basma, thanks for being here today.
Thank you for having me, Christy.
Yes, so nice to finally meet like this. So yeah, I'm really curious about your story. Because you told me that you've been in a burnout in the past. So I'm just quite curious, like how you got into it, and also how you got out of the burnout.
Yes. It's also so common nowadays that we hear people having burnouts, and it's very common with women. So I'm originally from Morocco. And when I graduated my master's when I was 23, I wanted to have an international experience. So I was applying for jobs throughout the world, and Sweden kind of worked. So I moved to Stockholm, which is very different culture than mine. And I was working at a big company. I started as an internship, and then afterwards, I got a full time job. And I was very ambitious. So I wanted to really be part of the young leaders that get promoted very fast. I also felt I had so many opportunities in Sweden as a country. Like I could be an entrepreneur, I could have side projects. Also in my personal life, I wanted to date and I really wanted to discover. I was like a super ambitious 20-year-old. And with all of that, being a foreigner, thinking I have no limits, thinking like I can get whatever I want, I hit the wall, basically. Especially that I really grew up with the idea that nothing was impossible. So as long as I put in the hard work, I will get it. And also thinking that I have like fuel forever, that I never have to rest, never have to take a nap, never have to, take a break. And I would only travel because I wanted to discover a country, not to rest. So basically, when I was 26, 27, and that was a few years ago, like 2018, I hit the wall. I had my burnout, and I didn't know what was happening because it wasn't also so talked about. So a lot of friends were telling me that, you have to just take a break, have a chill weekend, go to the gym. So thankfully, because Sweden has burnout as one of the recognized conditions, my doctor told me that I have a burnout and that I needed to go on sick leave and I needed to like do a lot of things for me to recover. So that's basically when I realized I have a burnout, and it was difficult because for an overachiever, ambitious woman, it was like telling me you're weak, you can't do life. I was a single with no kids at that point, so like you can't even handle life at this point. And I felt really miserable. So I needed to really work through a lot of emotions and a lot of patterns and a lot of thoughts that I had in mind to switch that thinking to something healthier and also change a bit the voice that I had in my head of I still can do a lot of things and I still can do to like go for everything that I wanted. It's just in a different way. So I was on sick leave for a while and then I came back to work like progressively, like 25, 50% and so on. And I had a very good manager at the time and a very good team. So that was helpful to come back. But at the same time, coming back to the same role was a bit strange because it was still the same place where I had my burnout. So it felt a bit triggering. And at some point, I felt that the company was not like recognizing me as this capable person anymore. And I had that label of burnout. So that got me thinking a lot about my career. Like, where do I want to go? Is it something that do I feel fulfilled with marketing at that point? I was working in content production. So I was going on sets all the time. It was very dynamic and I really loved it. I met so many people. But at some point it just, there was a disconnect. I just felt like this is not fulfilling as much. And it helped a lot in my recovery to quit my job actually and try to pursue something new. Because definitely like in 2020 when I quit, I felt like a huge progress in my life afterwards. So this is a bit my story.
Yeah, it's a very interesting story, and also very inspiring also to see how ambitious you were at such a young age. I mean, when I was 20, I had no clue who I was. I had no clue what I wanted to do. So it's quite funny how we both kind of like went on the same path. Like we want to help other women or people with their mental health and with finding happiness and fulfillment in their career and life. But I came from a place of not knowing who I was, what I'm doing, whereas you came from a different place. Like I'm very ambitious and like I came from a place, for example, with a lot of fears and doubts and insecurities and not feeling confident, not thinking I can do anything. Whereas you came from a place from nothing is impossible. Like the world is my oyster. I can do what I want. And I'm curious, they always say it goes back to your childhood. Was this also your parents who were very much telling you the sky's the limit, go follow your dreams, anything is
I think
possible?
so. My both my parents are teachers, so I grew up in an environment where like education was very important, and that if you are educated, literally there is no limits to what you can do. I think also my environment was very empowering to women. Like my mom, my aunts all have jobs, considering that I come from a Moroccan environment. Very modest family, like we're not rich or like loaded or anything. We're quite modest as a family, but there was a lot of empowerment in us that we can do it. So definitely, my childhood plays a role, and I think I also had things in my life like the choices that I made. For example, to go to marketing, even if most of my in school they would say, oh, marketing is not as important as finance, let's say. I'm stubborn, so this also plays in me being like sky's the limit. Nobody can tell me what I can or cannot do, so I always take it on myself to prove myself right when people tell me you can do something, and that definitely plays a role in my burnout. So yes, I think childhood has a big role in it, definitely.
Yeah, to me, I'm like, wow, I wish I was more like that. But yeah, now you can see, that also has its
Yeah,
disadvantages.
yeah.
Okay, so then you had the burnout, and how do you feel like it helped you discover what else you want to do in your career?
I think working in marketing was very creative, very strategic. It was like very business driven. But it and I worked in a big organization, so it really missed the element of impact. So I was just like this little step in the big picture. So whenever I would do productions, actually work, like do like achieve my objectives that I had for the year, I would never really see what happened afterwards. So that disconnect really gave me this importance of I want to see my impact. I want to see how whatever I put in will be visible afterwards. So it made me think of moving from a bigger like organization to a smaller scale organization. This way, instead of just be doing one part, I would see it through. So it gave me that sense of fulfillment. And I think also at some point I started to feel that like what I was working on was a bit too like disconnected from the impact on humans. It's very creative, it's very inspiring. Like I created really beautiful things, but at the end it's just towards consumption, towards more, towards just you know are we really bettering society in that sense? And those questions really stuck with me because I was like, okay, I am still ambitious. I still want to go for things, but maybe it's time for me to switch to something that is more palpable. Like I can really see my impact and it's actually supporting society in being better. And it wasn't, I think, for someone who's stubborn and who really was always fighting to say marketing is amazing, it was very funny for me to move from marketing to more HR, more people and culture. Also considering that I always was joking with my friends who were in HR that what do you guys even do? You're just admin. But then I realized that it's not the case. Really not. So I wanna from this actually I wanna apologize to all my HR friends. If ever I told you that your job was not as exciting as marketing, I apologize. Your job is actually exciting.
No, I seems like a very interesting job to me. Um, I, I think my story is very similar to you in that sense that I also felt like I'm not really adding anything to society. I want to do something meaningful and give back to society and see if you can make the world a better place. And what you were saying about the consumption, like I was listening to meditation this morning, and it was also all about like how the outside world is really trying to make us buy all these things and be a certain way and do all these things, and there's so many things we don't even need, like so much stuff and things, and it's so much more rewarding when you help people with their personal development or with their mental health or their growth. It's so much more rewarding. And I see this with my clients also, that they say, yeah, they just don't feel fulfilled because they don't feel like they're doing anything meaningful. And now, of course, you found something completely different. And how do you support your employees or the employees from the company with their mental health?
So today, as a well-being consultant, I think I felt I would give so much more in bringing awareness in the corporate world about taking care of ourselves in a way, and that it's something that is hand in hand with business goals. It's not that if you support your employees to feel better and find their purpose and like don't suffer from stress, that your business goals are not going to be met. So I come in as a bridge basically to show that you can have people who perform better because they feel better and business goals. And this usually we start with building awareness. Like you really need to remove the stigma around mental health. Because as I said at the beginning, like I had my own stigma. I felt that, oh, if you have troubles, you're weak. But that's not the case. That just means that you're a human being, that you need to take that time to rest, take time to recharge, and really always do an audit of your life to see if you're still aligned with yourself. And I always give the example of athletes, because athletes, they do take rest into their schedule. You if you see Djokovic, for example, he has time to rest. He has time to do the ice water for his muscles to recover. He goes to the sauna. Like there's a lot of process. There's a big process for recovery when you are performing. So seeing ourselves also as that and trying to help employees see themselves that they also, in order for them to do their job well, in order for them to have a good quality of life, they need to include certain elements so that they can not remove, actually offset stress. And when we build awareness and we try to remove the stigma by giving stories, then also providing tools. You cannot just tell people, oh, yeah, take care of yourselves. But then as a company, you should provide tools. So you should provide like employee assistance programs for employees to be able to call someone if they don't feel well, to go to the doctor and do checkups. You can provide them meditation apps so that they can do the work on their own and listen to, like, as you said, like you listen to meditation, and it always gives you something to think about that is a little bit outside of work, where you can center yourself and so on. You give them access to therapy. There are really good providers out there that give access to therapy. Try to encourage, like, especially I noticed that in certain environments, when you try to talk employees into going to therapy, they don't want to because they're like, there's nothing wrong with me. But when we frame it a little bit as coaching or like as discover a little bit more personal development, they're more likely to go. So also try to see what type of culture do you have in the company for you to know where to steer it. And I think one element that is super important is training team managers. There's a lot of research that shows that the way the managers treat their teams is almost equal as how, as a person, like when you have a partner. If your partner is great, you're going to have a good quality of your life. If your partner is abusive, if they are not okay, if there are things that are not okay in your couple, you're going to suffer from your health a lot. So it's the same. Managers have the same impact. So it's very important to train people managers for how to spot if someone is not doing okay, to steer them towards the right solution. Because I noticed that a lot of people managers tell me, I'm not a psychologist. I don't know how to handle an anxiety attack or a panic attack. And I'm like, yes, that's why you have a tool for you. So you just tell your person or the people in your team to go towards this tool. We know that you're incapable of handling certain situations. We just want you to be aware of it and know how to handle it. So a lot of focus on people managers really helps a lot in mental health in companies.
And I think it's also good for them to be aware of it, also for themselves, because they're kind of the role models, you know. So if they are not, their mental health is not in check, or they have issues that they're not addressing, then how can they lead a team, you know? So
Yeah.
it's like the same as like in an airplane, that you first put on the oxygen mask yourself before you help someone else, you know. So you first fill up your own cup. So it's also good for the managers themselves to, yeah, make sure
Yeah.
that they are feeling good. And then, what do you feel like the employees struggle with the most when it comes to mental health? Or are there any certain issues that you always see coming back, or is it all very different?
I think anxiety is one of them. You have people that develop anxiety at work because either they, the expectations and the objectives are too high and they're afraid of not meeting them, or the environment in the company is a bit chaotic and there are so many things unclear, so they don't have this stability that usually gives them mental stability, so they experience anxiety. I also notice that because of, again, if there is unclarity or really high objectives for the employees, they have panic attacks, which is quite sad to see because you're not supposed to have a panic attack at work. You're not supposed to have this built up of emotion so much that you have panic. We also notice neurodivergence. So people with neurodivergence, they're not, they don't feel that they fit in. So you see that they experience discomfort, and that sometimes they really have to take sick days because something happened. They can't come forward and say, I have ADHD or I'm on the spectrum of autism, because they're not going to feel they're accepted. And like we also notice irritability. This is something that is like a really small symptom. If you see that your team member or your manager is irritable, is one of the signs that mental health is really not okay. Yeah, these are a bit the what I noticed so far.
Yeah, I have with my clients also. It's a really a lot of anxiety. There's just so much pressure from society to be a certain way, to achieve certain things. To There's just so much pressure. You know, not just from work, but also from your private life and friends and everything. It's like all comes on top of each other. It's a lot.
Yeah,
And then just going back to the burnout, are there any like really common signs, like warning signs? And I'm also quite curious about you looking now back at your burnout. If you're now like thinking, oh yeah, those were really the signs that I was getting into burnout, or that I was in a burnout.
yeah. For my own experience looking back, I think since I mentioned just irritability now, I'm not someone who usually gets like snappy very fast. I'm quite like understanding and I extend a lot of grace to people when they do something wrong. And the time, like the few months leading to my burnout, I started being really irritable. Like you would just tell me that a project deadline has changed and I would lose it. I'll just be like, this is not possible. How can we do this? And I had no room for patience whatsoever. I also think feeling tired is one of the early signs that's like there that we kind of dismiss because it's so normalized to feel tired. I think when you meet your friends in the weekend after work, everyone is tired, and it's not normal. Like looking back at it, I'm like, I'm not supposed to feel tired all the time. I'm supposed to feel tired every now and then. So feeling tired and exhausted is not normal. Sleep sleep being disrupted, it's normal every now and then to have disrupted sleep, like have a bad night. But if it's happening again like days consecutively, you have to look and see what's going on. Maybe this is one of the signs. Having the dread to go to work, this is something that I didn't realize. I would wake up every day feeling like I don't want to go. And at some point I thought this is just part of adulting. Maybe, it's just normal. Now I'm an adult, I have bills to pay, so it's normal for me to not like my job. But no, that's not normal. Like you're supposed to wake up maybe like, I don't feel like going today, but the next days are okay. But to feel it all the time, there's something really off. And I'd add to that like dissociation. Like when you are sitting with your family, with your friends, you really zone out. You're not able to take any more information whatsoever. And this was one of the things I felt, and I didn't know what was happening because I would just feel I'm there, but I'm not really there. And I'm always dissociated with everything. And I started missing deadlines also at work and missing important things because I would just be incapable of holding any new information. Yeah, and then like in the bucket of feeling tired, because I went to the doctor to do a full health checkup, and I found that my iron levels were super low. And I realized then that we don't realize how much having like our hormones not checked and not having our like blood unchecked can impact our quality of life that much. I was astonished when I found that I always joked with a friend that was like, "Oh, you're anemic. You have to eat your vegetables." Then I was that. I was like, "Okay, I have to take care of myself as well." Yeah.
That's really important indeed. I had exactly the same after my
Yeah.
second pregnancy, that my iron levels were super low, and I also did the blood test. So that's another tip, if you're feeling tired and stuff, like go to the doctor, get these things checked out.
I
And
think
then how
especially
do you,
with. Oh, sorry.
no worries. What do you feel, how can women prevent a second burnout from happening? Have any tips for that?
Um, I think women in general are very nurturing. Like, if I want to generalize, not really. This is just from a generalization perspective. If they want to avoid like having their second burnout, it's important to look at that nurturing and where do you want to put it, because it might be very useful for a woman to put that nurture back to herself and find exactly what matters to her, because you might go, in the first burnout, if you had that first wake up call and you did the work, you did find out that you had certain childhood trauma that you have to work on. You are someone who works way too hard to prove themselves, and you fix that in a way. I think it's very important to give a big part of your focus also back to yourself. This is for one, and also like evaluating always the sense of self, because women are always bombarded by insecurities. Like you step, not even step out of the house now, everything is even home. Like you watch TV, you watch Netflix, you watch everything, you listen, whatever you consume, it feels like society is always trying to remind us that we're not enough, which puts us in a fear state and in a fear of less than. So a lot of decisions we make are out of fear rather than out of fulfillment and wanting to be better and wanting something better for ourselves. So I think doing this self-evaluation and like seeing where I am and how do I talk to myself is very powerful, to avoid like a second burnout.
Yeah, I think it really has to do with it going on the journey of self development and really working on your mindset. 'Cause, we can be our own worst enemies and talk ourselves really down and tell ourselves we'll never be able to achieve certain things and we'll never, and that just adds on so much stress. So yeah, I think for me also, like working with coaches on my mindset and reading all those personal development books, that really allowed me to also deal with challenges and setbacks in life so much more than
Yeah.
before. And so with me, I speak to a lot of women who are unhappy in their career and they don't really make a change. They kind of stay stuck even though their job is making them unhappy. Why? I don't know if you've also seen this, and why do you think that so many, women stay stuck in a career that's actually making them miserable?
Yeah. Related again to fear, I think we are, as women, regardless of what society you were brought up in, if it's safe or unsafe, we're always worried about something happening to us. You could be assaulted. You could be someone could just look at you wrong. You could be like there's so many things that could go wrong. So a lot of decisions we make start from a point of fear rather than a point of joy. So when it comes to changing careers, you're thinking, okay, I have this. This is safe, and to go to the unknown is going to be very dangerous. So we stay stuck because we're like, we better have this than have something else. And it also very cultural as well. There are cultures that support their people or like show their people that it's better to have something small and continuous rather than something big and that is not going to come as often. And I also think we are we're taught to create harmony. So in our girls group, friends group, in our family, we try to create harmony. And women are so good at creating communities, and they're very smart, like emotionally intelligent. And when you want to change your career, you're going to disrupt something. So you have to have disruptive energy coming in and taking risks. So it goes sometimes against all what you have thought was possible, which I think then that's where it's very important to surround yourself by people that did that, and also talk to coaches like yourself, because then you see that it's possible. You see that there's someone who's gonna show you it's possible. You can make that career change. You can find it. You can be happier. You don't have to accept this bare minimum. You can actually have a fulfilling life. Yeah.
I just found it interesting how you've been brought up in such a different way. So you probably never really needed all this. Well, I'm not sure that this is just an assumption. Working on your mindset and stuff, because you've been imprinted from a young age that anything is possible. The sky is the limit. Have you yourself ever had any doubts or any things, or do you say no because I was just brought up in such a way, like? Because maybe you have some tips for people who do, really have that negative. Because do you also have like a negative voice inside your head sometimes, or did you
Definitely,
say?
definitely. I had like the harshest voice ever, and that's why actually I called my podcast a kinder lifestyle, because I was so harsh towards myself and so judgmental, and I had all of these ugly voices telling me stuff. But I think I this is gonna sound maybe cheesy, but I really liked watching a lot of anime growing up, and a lot of cartoons where courage and bravery was very prevalent. And I loved that. I always saw myself as, oh my God, I want to be as powerful as that, and I want to be able to take risks. So, next to the environment that was empowering, I also consumed a lot of content, also in books, of women that could do stuff, people that could do stuff. And I noticed also that when I deal with life, a lot of times I don't realize I am a woman in life. So when sexism hits me on the face, I'm like, oh wait, oh yes, I still live in this world, and this still happens. But I think growing up and consuming still until today a lot of content about bravery being one of the values helped me have this kind of mindset. Being stubborn because of my star sign, I am a Taurus, helps. Helps me like do that. But I definitely have self doubt as well. And again, I'm very grateful that I have an environment where I have friends who are very supportive, like a support system where when I'm doubtful, they can bring me up and help me. And also, I'm not shy away from taking support. So I never took like a career coaching, but I definitely considered it. And I always consider therapy as a place to start, to face the fears and then have the tools and know which ones you have to pick and choose from. Yeah.
And I can imagine for you that that's why also maybe for you the burnout was such a thing for you, because you thought the sky's the limit, I can do whatever I want, and then bam, the burnout hits, and then you like get angry and disappointed in yourself. And that was probably your lesson to also learn to be kinder and softer to yourself, and be like, okay, well, this happened to me, it's okay. What can I learn from this, instead of beating yourself down? Because that's us women we so easily do that, we're so hard on ourselves.
Yes, totally. So,
And yeah, that's really, working on the mindset, working on loving yourself, treating yourself as how you talking to yourself, how you would talk to your best friend or a child. I also always do that exercise with my clients, because then some people are not even aware of how they speak to themselves until they start to write it down, or they start to be more aware, they're conscious of what they say, and they're like, ah. And I think, if we are more kinder to ourselves, we can achieve so much more. So I have just one last question for you, and that is, maybe any last piece of advice to any women listening to this or watching this, who are currently really feeling stuck in their career. Maybe they're depressed, maybe they are having a burnout, maybe they just came out of a burnout, but they're not in a good place. Like, what advice would you give them?
I would say like a lot of times we internalize a lot of thoughts, and it's very important to talk to someone that changed their life. I think being inspired by others and showing that this actually exists can give a lot of confidence boost in the ability of the person to do it themselves. So if I would give, like, if anyone is at any space that they're not feeling okay, do the step to talk to someone. It could be if you feel like, if you know that you're stuck in your career, it could be a career coach. If you feel that your emotions are not okay and you're not talking nicely with yourself, do your therapy sessions. If you feel that, or you can start by reading books, reading a lot, like reading the stories of people who have done a certain change, so that you can empower yourself with this. Like, I can also change my life. This would be like my advice.
Yeah, I think that's really important to know that just because you're in a situation like this, it doesn't mean that it has to be forever, and you can change, and you can become a completely different person if you want to. But yeah, it's important to seek help, ask for help. Like, don't feel like you have to figure all this stuff out on your own, because there's just so much resources and help and available out there. All right, thank you so much for being here today.
Thank you.
I really appreciate it. And I want to thank the listeners for listening and everyone for watching. And till next time.
Thank you.